Hiya, so today I'm going to have a look at how the human has invented things, solutions to problems that we have initially caused. A little bit like how we take medication, but then we need medication to treat the side effects of the first medication. And we are very much in that arena sometimes with our horses' bits and bridles. We create the resistance by using and abusing their mouth. And when we get that reaction, we then have to think of something to stop that reaction. Well, the overcheck, not often seen in English riding, or any riding really. It's more of a harness and driven piece of tack. But if you have a look here, you see the muscles under the neck, you see the bearing rein is taut. Now that comes from the not the harness, the surcingle or the saddle, and it would go up between the ears, down the front of the horse's face, onto an upper mouthpiece. So it's got two mouthpieces in. Now you can see this horse is in a martingale as well. So while it's got the overcheck, he's preventing it from putting its head down. The martingale is insisting it puts its head down. So this horse is in a world of quandary here. There's no escape from that. There is none. All options have been taken away. Here's a closer look. Now this is an overcheck, but I can't see because of the shadowing whether it's actually a bit one or a noseband version. However, it does show the branching down the centre of the face, and you see that that bearing rein at the top is being affixed. Now going back to the days of Black Beauty, they used to use a rein like that to raise the horse's head because they thought it looked pretty. But a carriage driving horse needs to be able to push its head and neck forward in order to pull. And so these are really quite unfair to a lot of these animals because you're asking them to drag something, i.e. a sulky, a carriage, whatever, but you're preventing it from using its body properly to do so. And I find it very interesting that these things are still used. So here's a better shot of the overcheck. You see the small ring there for the small mouthpiece, even smaller than a bridoon mouthpiece. You see the ordinary, I'll say snaffle rein here just to keep it simple, and the branching of that strap that goes down the centre of the horse's face. Now you can see here where it sits, that overcheck is right up, actually on the upper part of the horse's mouth, not where we usually sit a bit. And so every time that horse will try to drop its nose to the vertical or even behind the vertical or even drop to buck, for instance, say, that is going to winch up into the horse's mouth, and it's just going to literally lever the horse's head back up. Here we have quite a nice photograph. This is a noseband version of the overcheck, albeit that there's a lot of snaffle rein pressure being dragged back into the lips there, as you can see, because the mouth is already opening. But you can see how that strap goes up the centre of the face. Now, we used to have something called the Australian chica years ago, which you don't see much now anymore, but it branched down the centre of the face to each snaffle ring. And it had the effect when you pulled the reins that it would put minor face pressure on the horse, but it tended to have more of a psychological impact that the horse didn't want to run into it. And so it was actually quite useful, but it wasn't as insistent as some of these contraptions are. Now here, I can't see what's going on in the mouth because it's just not a good enough photograph. That's not the reason I picked it. I wanted to draw attention to how close to the nostrils the strapping is. If there's any kind of tension on those straps, that's going to start impeding the airways. There is mention that these overchecks are used to raise the head to open the airways, but that's not really going to count when you take into effect that the tongue will be being sucked back the whole time. I want to point the slobber. If your horse's mouth is that slobbery, there is a problem. This is not a happy, contented mouth. If that is happening, that is going to be to detriment to your horse and to his performance. Now here we have a Z guide overcheck. Looks quite a fearsome contraption. And it seems to have a side check on it as well as an overcheck. But you'll see that there's almost a thin bungee cord that comes from a martingale area up through the throat lash down to the noseband itself. And it seems to have the overcheck strap at the front centre of the face as well. Now, this doesn't have the bit in it. It does have the curb chain, but also just notice those curb hooks, or that curb hook, how prominent that is. That even in and of itself, that could be a problem in stabbing that horse as it's moving. However, it does show very clearly how that sort of apparatus works in preventing that head being put down. Now, this is a Raymond levitation noseband and bit. It works pretty much the same principle as the overcheck. It probably fits into the overcheck category in a saddlery. Again, those straps are there up the centre of the face to stop that horse from dropping its head. The problem we have is if that horse is dropping its head, it's dropping its head for a reason. It's dropping its head for a reason, and we are shutting the door on it from being able to relieve its mouth in one way by giving it almost another problem to either think about, try to work its way round, or to just shut it down entirely. Now, here's my Raymond levitation. I just thought I'd put a photo of it up because it helps you to see a bit more clearly. Again, I collect bits. This is my thing. I don't use them on any of the horses that I work with, except for demonstration, that sort of thing. But they never go into a horse's mouth generally because I just wouldn't. But it's always interesting to see how we have to concoct another way. I think if bits worked, we wouldn't need so many. We'd only have, 3-4 different mouthpieces, a few different sizes. Everyone would be happy. Most people would be happy. But they don't work. They create a problem. So then we have to design something else to correct the problem. Now, this is a Norton Citation. It's not an overcheck, but because of the central face strap, I wanted to include it because it kind of works in this category. It's a double mouthpiece, as you can see, with a sliding ring bar on the second thinner mouthpiece. And it's dedicated for hard pullers. Again, meant to raise the head very slightly by poking it in the roof of the mouth. If you Google most bits, they're quite honest about the pain they're going to inflict on the animal. And this one says it scissors into the mouth. I don't know why that's acceptable after all these years and all this enlightenment, why that is still just considered the way things are. I do have a Norton Citation Bit. Here it is. Again, purely for my knowledge, other people's knowledge. I've never used it. But you can see it looks relatively, quotes, innocent when it's in its normal position. Incidentally, it will never be in that position in the horse's mouth, ever, because to fit it, there will be a slight drop, as in a slight V in the shape of it, in order to fit it to the horse's mouth. So it's already going to be problematic, more problematic than that photograph shows. The two mouthpieces, again, we're giving the horse one mouthpiece as a problem and then a second one to give it a real problem, because that then goes up into the roof of the mouth. Now, just imagine that for a moment if you can. Now, that's how it looks once it's activated. Now, the horse is only ever going to be able to open its mouth at this point. It's going to rush forward, almost chin forward. It's going to be showing the whites of its eyes, that's for sure. And it's going to be forcing that mouth more and more to open. Now, if there was a noseband shutting the mouth, that would just be agony. It would be absolute agony. As it is, it's probably pretty damn painful. If the horse is running with its mouth open, again, we have an issue, because that can cause all kinds of problems. Broken wind, it used to be called, but we see a lot of racehorses that have struggled and are even retired because their wind has been damaged by galloping with their mouths open. So I just find it interesting that we question so many things now. We are apparently, the new generation of the caring, sharing sort, and yet we still accept things like scissoring in the mouth, nutcracker action. I wonder why we accept that and why we're not challenging it a bit more. And why are we seeing our horses still as a beast of burden, even if it's in a pretty brow band? We deserve to have a happy horse, and they deserve to have a listening handler stroke rider. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I hope you'll like and subscribe. Bye now.